Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonja Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
You're watching National Streaming Sports. Over 20 podcasts, 70 shows, and a 3.5-star rating on Roku TV.
Good morning and welcome to the Mac and Jack Show. I'm Sonja sitting in with my nice, great co-host here, Jack Hirsch. Jack, good morning. How are you? You're muted. That's how you are.
Oh, good morning, Sonja. It's early. That's why I'm muted. Maybe I'm tired. Maybe I'm not muted.
Gotta have your coffee, Jack. Gotta have your coffee. It's so early. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this morning. Good morning. And make sure you guys download the Roku app as stated in the commercial. So you too can be in the know when we are live 24/7 sports without the cost of cable. That's my slogan. I really should coin that, Jack. I've been saying that so long. I think I'm the only person that says that. Speaking of the only person, we had the NBA finals are still ongoing. Of course, they've been slated to commence the official finals June 3rd, 2025. And we are wrapping up this series. Of course, last night's games, just a shock, honestly, Jack. That Pacers game, that was the latter game of the evening. Pacers end up losing 129 to 109, winning 129 to 109. When I last looked, Jack, it was already close to a 30-point deficit, and that wasn't even at the half.
Sonja, I keep looking at the box score over and over and over, thinking I missed something. I misread something. I'm taking a look. Jared Allen, one shot the whole game. What's he been doing? Hanging out with Ben Simmons? I mean, one shot the whole game. Jared Allen, a great rebounder, 2 rebounds the whole game. You know, Donovan Mitchell had a bad game, shot 3 for 11, 12 points. It was inevitable because Donovan Mitchell had been carrying the Cavs. He was a one-man show in large part the whole series for the Cleveland Cavaliers, even though he couldn't quite will them to a victory in games 1 and 2 at Cleveland. And it was inevitable he would take a step back. It could happen to anyone for one game. But when the Cavaliers won game 3, at Indianapolis, you think, okay, they're ready to start rolling. They're ready to show themselves to be the 64-win team that they were. And they just never got off. I mean, they kind of lost their cool. Fights nearly were taking place in the beginning of the game. They got off to a bad start. It's like they never woke up. They never woke up. You think they would wake up and take a little bit of a run during the game, but they never took a run at the Indiana Pacers during the game. And I don't want to hear Rick Carlisle say, well, we haven't won a thing yet. Yes, you have. You won 3 games. You're up 3-1. Don't give me that nice talk, that you haven't done a thing yet. You've done an awful lot. And I wonder when the Cavaliers won game 3 was their mindset, okay, we're going back to Cleveland for game 5. Mm-hmm. So maybe there wasn't an urgency in game 4. There certainly has to be an urgency if there's a game 6, but obviously you got to win game 5 at home first, which I'm sure the Cavaliers are confident that they're going to do. But I just couldn't figure out last night for the life of me, Sonja, that the Cleveland Cavaliers just never showed up. And Kenny Atkinson coach team, you expect more from than that.
I mean, this thing could be over, Jack. With one more win by the Pacers, it's a wrap. Like they literally have allowed the Cavaliers, excuse me, they have allowed the Pacers to take the lead. And we talked about a couple of episodes ago how stats line up about teams that are 3-1 down. It's very few teams. It has been done, but it's like a 93% chance that the 3-1, the leader of that series, goes on to win. And so it's going to be interesting to see what happens here, because I honestly do not think that they still have the momentum needed to come back.
No, the Cavaliers certainly don't have any momentum at all. Momentum's only as good as your last game. I keep hearing it on this show from our other co-hosts, so on, and the other shows. Oh, momentum, momentum, momentum. The Cavaliers had the momentum going into game 4. They beat the Pacers resoundingly on their home court in game 3. Don't tell me about momentum. The Knicks were up 2-0 against the Celtics going back to Madison Square Garden. They're the ones who supposedly had the momentum. They got routed in game 3. Now
Yeah,
we
they
say
did.
that the Celtics have the momentum. Come on, momentum's as good as your last game. If I'm the Knicks, if I'm the Knicks players, I'm thinking about what an opportunity this can be. If they can get by the Celtics, they can beat the Pacers. Remember the movie The Karate Kid, where the
Yes.
sensei wanted him to foul, but he said, "But sensei, I can beat this
Yeah.
guy." And if
Yes.
the Knicks, you're looking at the Pacers, even though you lost to them in 7 games in the playoffs last year, if you're the Knicks, you're thinking, we're a better team than the Pacers. They beat the Cavaliers. We can beat these guys, the Pacers. We should beat these guys. We wouldn't be underdogs to them like we would be against the Cavaliers, even though the Knicks would probably have a level of confidence that they could beat Cleveland as well. There's a difference involved between thinking you can beat a team or thinking you should beat a team. And the
It's
Pacers
different.
are very beatable, for the Knicks, but they have to get by the Celtics. They play the Celtics today, and even if the Knicks win today and go up 3-1, it's a big mountain to climb. You get the feeling the Knicks up 2-1 against the Celtics, but you get the feeling that they're the ones who have to come from behind in a certain sense.
I mean, you talk about that game with the Knicks, and we'll go back to the Western Conference in a minute. But that Knicks Celtics game is the demand for those tickets, Jack. I mean, those Northeasterners, all you guys from the Northeast up there, are really coming out to support this. The average ticket price, wow, for resale was $2,000 as these games have approached, and it's getting even higher now. This game matchup is definitely one for the records. I'm excited for it as a non-Celtics, non-Knicks fan. Of course, I'm partial to Jason Tatum, like I've always talked about. But even that game there, that series is so. I never thought the Knicks would come in and jump up as they did. The Celtics have really got to rally all the way out. They've got to finish this entire series. They cannot allow the Knicks to come back, not even another game.
I got to point out the Knicks have always been a hot ticket, always an expensive ticket. And you
Even
could
with
compare it to Broadway plays. I'll give you an example. There was one night I decided I was going to take my son-in-laws to an NBA game. And there were 2 games being played that night. The Brooklyn Nets were hosting the Charlotte Hornets in one game, and the Knicks were hosting the Detroit Pistons in the other game. And this was last year when the Pistons weren't good. Keep that in mind. And I'm looking at the ticket prices. The Knicks tickets were 3 times the amount of the net tickets. We wound up going to the net game,
Oh,
okay, rather than pay 3 times the amount to get
yes.
into the Knicks and Pistons. That's just what it is with the Knicks. The Knicks have had one of the most loyal fan bases in sports. But it's time for the Knicks to take the next step. I don't want to see this scenario play out. The Knicks losing 7 games to the Celtics, and we hear how wonderful the Knicks were, that no one expected them to take it to 7 games. When you're up 2-0, you're expected to win the series at that point. And at some point, every team has to take the next step. They have to do it. And the time is now for the next. Tonight's the time for the next now. You win tonight, you go up 3-1. You have 3 games left to win 1. The math is very simple.
Yeah, very simple. Good morning to Richard and good morning to Little Holmes. Little Holmes said good morning to you, Jack. I guess that's
Hey,
one of
Little Holmes. Yeah, I hope I see you tonight on the boxing show. Little Holmes must be a big fan of Larry Holmes. That's what I heard. It's been a little bit scrutinized lately, the last few days. The trade the Knicks made with the Timberwolves, trading Julius Randle to Minnesota. And Minnesota was really put down for making that trade, trading Karl Anthony Towns to get, they got Dom DiVincenzo along with Julius Randle, but Randle was the main guy. And Randle's been great for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I'm happy for the Knicks that they made the deal because they're just as good, if not better, off with Karl Anthony Towns. I know Julius Randle was a heck of a player, but they were only going to go so far, teaming Randle with Brunson. And the style of game that Brunson plays, he has to be in control. He has to be the man. He has to run the offense fully. And with Randle there, even though Randle wasn't a selfish play in my view, the fit wasn't quite as good as Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns, having Brunson with Randle. But Randle is good as a great supporter to Anthony Edwards. Plus, Randle can take over and be the guy on a given game if Anthony Edwards is having an off game, as Randle has shown, in the series with Golden State.
Yeah, I mean, Randle has a very strong performance for the T-Wolves. He's been really outstanding. Like, as of late, their game on Saturday, he had like 24 points, 12 assists, and 10 rebounds. And those were very crucial stats because he was able to lead them to that victory 102-97 and basically break the tiebreaker to give them the 2-1 series break that they needed, Jack. And so this was their Minnesota's first playoff triple-double since Kevin Garnett. So basically, Randle has come in and made a name for himself there. There's even been discussion and some apologies from some analysts who actually underestimated his impact when he came to the team, especially because of his less successful playoff performance when he was with the Knicks.
Well, you talk about playoff performances. The Minnesota Timberwolves have never been to an NBA Finals, let alone winning an NBA championship. So they made that deal for Rudy Gobert, which they gave away a historic package of draft picks like never seen before, which other teams can't even match for superstars. In other words, Minnesota gave away for Gobert as if he was a superstar. They gave away that type of value. But if they do get to an NBA Finals, making that deal with all the picks for Gobert and trading Karl Anthony Towns, for Julius Randle, it's worth it at the end. Then the deal's been successful if they get to an NBA Finals. If they never do, then then the deal backfires. I mean, sometimes deals are cut and dry. We got to see the results of them. We could criticize them in the beginning, like the Luka deal for that they made for Anthony Davis with the Mavs. If the Mavs ever win an NBA championship with Anthony Davis, no one could criticize the deal anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, sometimes we as fans and even analysts especially question these trades. And I'm gonna be honest with you, Jack. I always say the verdict is still out. I feel like, these players have certain good games, Julius Randle being one of them. And then the next one, you just never know what it looks like. I don't know. I think for playoff purposes right now, with the T-Wolves being where they are, I know that they think they've made a great investment, especially with such a close series. I'm hoping that he can come in clutch for them to remain in the playoffs. However, I'm partial to the Warriors. And Steph Curry being out this entire week has been substantial to their playoff contentions right now. I think him being out of this game has been a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I can't see Golden State winning this series without Steph Curry unless he returns at some point. I know Jimmy Butler in the past has had certain heroics at Miami where he willed them to wins, got them into the finals a couple of times. No, I was talking about deals a moment ago, Sonia, and sometimes the best deals are the deals you don't make. If you just leave things alone and let it play out, a case in point, we're talking about Julius Randle. He was an LA Laker. Can you imagine the Lakers just wrote him out his whole career, let him be an LA Laker? You know how important he would be to that team now if you paired him with LeBron and Luka. Can you imagine if Randall were never traded?
They would have been dynamite. They would have been dynamite. I mean, there's been conversation, and we'll come back to the Warriors in a second. There's been conversation about LeBron so much and about him being eliminated so early in the contest. And I think that trades make a big difference. And bringing Luka into the circle, they really felt like this was their end all be all. And so, of course, now LeBron's basically going around saying he had some type of injury. I mean, I've heard rumblings here and there. I mean, these players always come up, I don't want to say with excuses, but you lost fair and square. You lost. If you were playing through an injury, it wasn't significant enough for a doctor to pull you out of the game.
Yeah, but in a way, it's a blessing in disguise for LeBron to have gotten eliminated early because then you have the mentality to Stephen A. Smith. Let's say LeBron got his team into the finals. He played heroically and got his team into the finals. And they lose in the finals, let's say, to the Boston Celtics. Let's just pretend for 1 second. Stephen A. Smith would hold it against him, saying, oh, he's 4-7 in finals. You know, now that he didn't get to the finals, they don't use that as a stat. Okay? You know, that's the mentality that bothers me. When someone does something really positive and they take their team as far as they can go, they then use it as a negative stat against someone. But with that said, I don't think LeBron's really making excuses. As far as Luka goes, to use your phrase, Sonia, it was a no-brainer that the Lakers had to make the deal to get Luka because there's certain players who increase a brand of a franchise. And LA has always been, as we've said in past shows, about having mega stars, Elgin Baylor, Jerry West, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Shaq, and Kobe. Then LeBron joined him, and now Luka's going to be their legacy star in the years ahead. So you make that deal when you have a legacy player who increases the brand of a franchise. I talk this way when I always used to argue with Mac about this a little bit. Like when I say that Aaron Judge, it wasn't just a normal player. He wasn't a normal player. And Dr. Paul Semendinger, they said, no, if Judge doesn't accept this money, just move on from him. You don't move on from a legacy player. Can you imagine the Yankees at one point in the past saying to Mickey Mantle, you don't take our offer, you're gone. We'll just trade your way. Certain guys belong with teams their whole career because they're associated with their career. You mentioned Steph Curry a while ago. He's associated as a warrior. He's a legacy player. When the Warriors look back Golden State on their history, who's going to be their most important player? Who are they going to be associated with the most in Golden State franchise history? It's going to be Steph Curry. You don't move on from guys like that unless they force you to.
I am excited, with him. We talk about the Draymond Green drama. I mean, it kind of Draymond drama. It actually makes sense now. That's going to be my new slogan. I mean, Steph has been able to stay grounded despite all of the drama that has continued to surround Draymond Green. But they say they treat Draymond like a pit bull. He's like that bad dog in the neighborhood that when you walk through the neighborhood, you hope that they are restrained because Draymond is lethal, Jack. I mean, how do you stay balanced on a team? And now they're down in this series. They're down. Steph is out. Draymond is not really putting up the stats that he should be putting up.
Charles Barkley and Draymond Green get along now because Draymond Green did some studio work at TNT, and he said Charles Barkley disarmed them. As soon as he saw Charles Barkley, Barkley greeted him warmly, and the two of them are good now, really good. But Charles Barkley had one of the great lines when him and Draymond Green were going back and forth, with insults. He compared Draymond Green to the drummer in the band. Okay, a great band. He's the drummer, meaning Steph and Klay Thompson and Durant did things, and Draymond was kind of like just the supporting guy. The drummers are very important. They make the concert a large part. Don't get me wrong. I have tremendous respect for the drummers, okay? Led by the most famous of them at all, I think, Ringo Starr. But it's, but Draymond Green is a heck of a player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer someday in all probability. But he's not the type of player who's going to carry a team. That's the thing. Jimmy Butler can carry a team to an extent. Steph Curry could carry them a little more. And are we giving Golden State all this attention based on their reputation the way we did to the Lakers? Or are we talking in reality right now? Even with Steph Curry, is it their pedigree? Is that the reason why we're considering them a serious championship contender?
I think they've established themselves, Jack. I kind of feel like once you win a championship, it's just kind of etched in stone, especially in new era. Like they just won a championship within the last decade. So anytime you're talking about a team that, kind of sets that tone, and then they've had decent seasons, during the regular season, that they appear to be dominant against certain other teams. I feel like those are the teams that it's kind of like it's expected. And so for me personally, I really feel like, okay, what is going on with the Warriors? It should not be that Steph is just that big of a cornerstone for that franchise that nobody else can even come close to keeping that team where they need to be to stay formidable in these series.
Well, the greatest hope is that Jimmy Butler plays like a superstar. But what's ironic is Miami in part moved on from Jimmy Butler because they felt his performances had been slipping a little. And, and he'd be in certain rotations with Coach Eric Spoelstra over there. Jimmy Butler was starting to become a bit unhappy the way he was used. And the relationship just fell apart. So, was it a lack of motivation in Miami? Because it's hard sometimes to go all out when you feel your team has no realistic chance of winning an NBA championship. So Jimmy Butler goes to Golden State. He thinks they can win an NBA championship. So he's going to put out a little more. But that's human nature. That doesn't mean he's dogging it.
Tonight's game is important, Jack. They play tonight. It's the way everything is looking. We may be looking at a T-Wolves positioning that it's impossible for the Warriors to even come back. This is a very strong position. We talked about the stats early on coming in. Basically, a loss would definitely put them in elimination, like they would be eliminated shortly. Historically, like we talked about in a 7-game series, it's a very high probability of winning with 3-1. The Timberwolves have been led by Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle. So for them to stay where they are, they both need to basically stay in that leadership role, and they basically need to play on both sides of the ball so that there's no holes left for the Warriors to sneak through. We've seen a couple of close games that we're like, okay, Steph wasn't there, but they were able to pull it out, what have you. But of course, these games are, if there would be a game 4, of course, and hopefully 6 and 7, those are going to be
game 5. Well, it's going to be a game 5. But if Minnesota wins, they go up 3-1. They're going home.
Yes,
but keep in mind, Minnesota historically has been a little bit dysfunctional.
Yeah,
they'll go on a little bit of a roll in the playoffs, and again the word momentum. We think they're going to keep it up, and then it falls apart. Look at the way they backtracked against the Dallas Mavs last year and lost that series and they were actually favored in most circles going into the Western Finals against the Mavs. I mean, they played really well in the playoffs. So you just don't know with this Minnesota team. But then there's the X factor with Steph Curry. If he does come back, how effective is he going to be? I mean, as long as he can shoot, I mean, they can maybe make some adjustments on defense to help him out. But it's a big game for Golden State, obviously. To fall down 3-1 to Minnesota, and then go to Minnesota for Game 5, and Minnesota would have a Game 7 there if Golden State somehow survived and won a Game 5 and Game 6.
6 and 7 would be.
It's a pretty big mountain to climb.
Yeah, 6 and 7 would be in San Francisco if there would be. Rick made a good point. I mean, I guess, Rick, I'll say this. I'm just not a Draymond fan, but he says every team, even the soft crybabies, need a Draymond Green to set the tone and protect teammates. But that's the thing, Rick. He did not protect his own teammates at every instance. He attacked Jordan Poole. I will never get over that. Even though that was during practice, he still did it. So he didn't protect his teammates.
Yeah, the funny thing is Michael Jordan did take a punch at Steve Kerr.
Yeah.
And had that been on tape for us to see, it's more dramatic when you see it, Sonja. Stuff like that goes on behind the scenes. I mean, look at the case, and it was terrible with Ray Rice, okay? We've heard of other NFL players with domestic abuse, but you saw it with Ray Rice.
Yeah.
If you never saw the video and just heard about it, you'd still be appalled by what happened. But the level of outrage would be, I hate to say it, a little less because you didn't have the visual to see. Whenever you have the visual, the level of outrage increases.
Yeah. I mean, this is the day and age we live in. And I always say, I'm so glad when I was younger that things weren't documented on film like they are now. Not that I did something to that degree, but just everybody has this mentality, not necessarily to even help somebody, but to just record and document and put it out there for the media, put it out there for the public. And I was watching a clip this weekend, Jack. It was a CNN correspondent. They were doing a live take, and his co-host just collapsed at the desk while they were on live. And all he did was basically said, somebody will help her. And the news just continued. And then finally, for a couple of seconds, he had to actually stop because he couldn't get himself together. We have literally lost the human element as far as what's compassionate towards another person, because everybody's in such a moment to record and put it in history so everybody can visually look at what's going on. And I think it's the same situation that we have in the league. Everybody's got a camera phone at practice. Everybody's got a camera phone in the locker room. Like, sometimes it's good because we see positive things, but all it takes is one person that is willing to, get some money from a source, or they may just not care for that person and they can't wait to put something bad out there.
Yeah, but I don't want to get off track with sports here, but I agree with you in large part. But look, when DeMar Hamilton suffered that episode during the football game, I think everyone was very compassionate. They stopped the game. The players were distraught. The people, in Buffalo went home. And I don't think anyone hopefully was complaining. Hopefully they weren't complaining that, the game's not continuing. I think there's a lot of compassion there. But getting back, now I'm getting back with sports here, because let's be honest about it, Sonja. That's why people are listening to to shows. They normally don't want to hear about morality in this and morality of that. I mean, but that is an issue in sports with what fans can say, what they're limited to say, and what they're not limited.
Yeah, so of course today is the NBA draft lottery. Scheduled in Chicago, Illinois. It's going to take place tonight at 7:00. It's going to determine the order in which the 14 non-playoff franchise teams will select their main picks for the 25th of June and 26th at the Barclays Center in New York. Not Cooper Flagg, but his classmate, Duke freshman Isaiah Evans, has withdrawn his NBA draft to return to college, Jack.
Well, it's only 18 years old.
Yeah, so it's Cooper.
I don't know what,
Cooper.
but Cooper Flag is projected to go number one and number two. And we talk about legacy players, excuse me, but there's a business side of it involved as well. Cooper Flag is a white player. The last time I looked, he was white, and that enters into the equation. Let's be honest about it. If you're a potential star type player, there's a fan base, and fans of cities want the best players they can get. Don't get me wrong. I mean, they want the best players, but all factors being equal, if a Cooper Flag turns into an NBA star, he's going to be incredibly valuable for that franchise. Incredibly. But it depends on the city he goes to. How energized is the fan base? If he goes somewhere like Washington, to the Washington Wizards, that's not exactly the most energized fan base. I mean, he'll energize them a little more, but I don't know would that city appreciate him as much as, let's say, Charlotte would. You tell me the difference if he went to the Charlotte, Hornets or the Washington Wizards. I think there's a big difference as far as, how valuable he'd be to the particular city/franchise.
Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of like how you brought up morality, and people don't really necessarily want to talk about it when they're talking about sports. Everybody doesn't want to always enter the race issue, but Isaiah Evans is African American. He's black. These are some of his stats. He's 6'6", just a little bit shorter than Cooper. Cooper's like 6'6" something, close 6'7", 6 something. He's about the same size, 175. But he was a 5-star recruit and a McDonald's All-American in 2024. In his freshman season, he averaged 6.8 points, 1.1 rebounds, and in 13 minutes per game, he shot 41% from three-point range, which led all of Duke's rotation players, Jack. He had a strong high school career at North Mecklenburg High School, which is right outside of Charlotte. And he's a 2-time North Carolina All-State Mr. Basketball, so much to the point that his jersey was retired by the school when he was there. So he's not just some little random kid that was going to go into the draft. Let me see what his projection was to go in. But, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, if you're GM, you have to have guts to take the best player at the end, because your fan base might want one particular player and they might be outraged if you don't take them, but it might not be the move. Remember years ago, Steve Alford, a legend at Indiana, played for Bobby Knight at Indiana State, great college player. He was available for the Indiana Pacers to take in the draft. What a fit you think that would have been. Indiana boy, Indiana State legend, Bobby Knight protege going to the Pacers. But the GM had the guts, and I'm having a brain fog, popular GM who took him, took Reggie Miller. And then he went into hiding, the GM. He ran out of the building, because of all the threats. And guess what? Reggie Miller's turned out to be the most popular Indiana Pacer in the team history, Hall of Famer, great player. That was the move to make, to take Reggie Miller.
You're talking about Donnie Walsh.
Donnie Walsh, thank you. Donnie Walsh.
That was in the 87.
Donnie Walsh had the guts to do it. Listen, the same thing happened with Houston, the Houston Texans there. They took Mario Williams ahead of Reggie Bush. Everyone thought for sure Reggie Bush was going to be taken. Heisman Trophy winner, running back, marquee player, Mr. Popularity. The city of Houston couldn't wait with the number one pick to get Reggie Bush. Instead, they take Mario Williams, a tackle, and Reggie Bush goes second to New Orleans. Guess what? Mario Williams had the better career.
He did.
Reggie Williams had a good career, but he didn't have a Hall of Fame career, Reggie Bush. So the move turned out to be a very unpopular move, but it turned out to be the right move.
Yeah, and that's actually interesting you say that, because while you were saying that, I was looking to see where they possibly were going to try to take Isaiah Evans, and the early projections where he was going to go late in the first round or maybe mid second round. So now that basically they were just basing this off of his shooting abilities. Maybe now that he goes back to Duke and gets another season, and they'll be keeping an eye out for him to see if he improves, and possibly raise his draft stock to go in for another draft.
Yeah, I think playing at Duke another year is real. Because look, we keep hearing, well, if the player gets hurt, he loses everything. Look, with the money they can make in college now, they can get a nice level of security to start their life. Okay, a nice level of security, number one. Number two, how many career-ending injuries are there? It's always possible it could happen, but let's be honest. Think of college, football, college basketball. How many phenoms who stayed in college have gotten injured to the point where they couldn't play in the NFL, NBA? I can't think of one
Yeah,
instance.
I
I mean, they
can't.
can get hurt. Their stock can go down with an injury, absolutely, and it's happened. Stock has gone down, but they can still go to the NFL, NBA, and make millions of dollars and have security. Maybe they won't do as well as they could do otherwise. That's what we hear about Cooper Flag. Oh, declare for the NBA draft just in case you get hurt. He could make up like $12 million in college or whatever. He could, if he wanted to go back to Duke for another year, he could have done it.
Yeah, definitely. So, and you bring up a good point, Jack. I don't know who started the terms of, oh, it could be a season-ending career. I don't know who put that.
Keith Engel started it. Keith Engel's the one who's always running scared. Oh no, you've got to come out now, just in case you get hurt. Just be scared of everything, Come on.
I think I didn't know. I was like somebody, but it is a chance, but it's not like off. And it's kind of like one of these stats, like what are the odds? We talk about odds a lot. What are the odds that this would happen? But then on the flip side of that, Jack, you don't want to be on the side that the odds is against you, that you are the one that you took a gamble, because it's still that small percentage, but life is a gamble. You brought up
wait, as long as you can play, as long as you can rehab and play at some point. You think of Cooper Flag, for example, suffered a terrible injury and had to miss a full year and didn't play next year, had a terrible injury. You mean to tell me your team wouldn't draft him in the first round? Still, he wouldn't go first overall. I agree with that. But he would still get drafted and make an NBA roster at some point.
Let me give you an NFL example of that. And it's with my own team. It's regarding Jonathan Brooks. Jonathan Brooks, who was drafted by the Panthers last season, in 21 through 23, he was a standout with the Texas Longhorns. In his final season, he got all these accolades. That same season, he had a torn ACL, which cut his college season short. When the draft kicked off, he was one of the top running back prospects in the 2024 draft. The Panthers drafted him in the second round, 46th overall, and he was the first running back, Jack, that was picked up in the whole draft. So he was the top running back and was the top draft pick for last year. When he came in, he was already injured and was unable to play for the Panthers. He could not start. He could not even take the field. Okay, they brought him back. The team doctors for the Panthers at the time cleared him to play. And then in week 12 against the Chiefs, he got hurt again. After recovering from his ACL tear, he couldn't play until week 12 is what I'm saying. My bad. He played the Chiefs after recovering from that initial ACL tear that he had in college, Jack. We're talking about a whole year of recovery for the ACL. Then 2 weeks later, he's playing the Philadelphia Eagles. He gets another ACL tear in the same knee due to a non-contact play and had to have surgery in January. Now they've just announced that he's going to miss this entire season, be on the PUP list, while they try to get him to recover because He came in with this almost season-ending injury, and because of that, he's now limited in his ability to play. And so the fact that he is now limited is exactly what I'm talking about. He was in college, he got injured in college, he was already having a powerhouse year. Had he not done that last season, he would not have been injured. He would have come in the draft probably healthy. And we're talking about a different Jonathan Brooks. Now we're talking about another second full season of him after being drafted that he's unable to play. Unmute your mic, Jack. I'm sorry.
These things happen, but when all is said and done, let's say Jonathan Brooks keeps trying to rehab and it doesn't quite work out and he has to retire, okay, at some point.
And has only played 2 games.
But he would still have made a few $1 million. That's the point I'm trying to make. It's not like he's going to be looking for a job and he's going to have no money to pay the rent. He's going to be fine in starting on this new segment in life, okay? His after football life. He's going to be given much more of a head start than the vast majority of other people are, who are looking for their first real job, more or less. That's what I'm trying to say. But that's an extreme case, and even then, he's going to have some semblance of financial security in the worst case scenario.
Jack, let me break down his contract for you. He had a signing bonus of $2,941. $2,941,500.
Well, it's $3 million to make it
okay.
easier.
His total guaranteed is only $4 million.
Good gosh, Sonja, only $4 million. That's his guarantee. So he's going for his first job. Whatever, I don't know what fields he would like to have, hypothetically. But let's say he decided to become an accountant, a teacher. Yeah, you hopefully or maybe go back to school to finish college if he hasn't, okay? He'll be fine. You put most of the money in the bank. You try to live off the interest for the most part. Not that interest is that high, but it's high enough. If you could put $3 million in the bank at 3%, that's $90,000 a year. So you live a little conservatively, you get your degree. I mean, and that's the worst case scenario.
Well, according to what I'm reading here, and let me grab Rick's comment real quick.
Then he can go. What is Rick talking about? Basket weaving? Give these guys credit.
Oh, Rick, come on.
I mean, you don't know what interest he has, Rick. I mean, maybe he has none. I mean, maybe it is basket weaving, but maybe he wants to be, an architect.
I have not heard of basket weaving.
Like I said, an attorney, a doctor. I don't know.
I haven't heard of basket weaving since I was a kid. I don't know my great grandmother. Oh, okay. No. So this is the thing, though, Jack. So I said $4 million, but basically this year he only had $795,000, and so I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but I personally just know
sounds like a lot. Sounds like a lot to me. I mean, I'm not from an athlete's perspective. Not from an athlete's perspective.
Yeah. Okay. So his cash payout for this year that he's getting ready to miss is $1,177,595. So he's still getting $1 million. He's signed. They guaranteed him. That's my question. So if he's injured, or is he still getting paid? Because he's signed through 2027.
Yeah, they have to pay him.
Oh my goodness. Well, the cap hit alone for this year is $1 million.
It's a rookie deal that he gets a certain amount. They have to pay him.
Wow. Well, he's hitting a cap hit on every one of them. This season alone, he's gonna be hitting close to the $2 million cap hit with the Panthers because he's not playing. So I had to talk about that because we talk about season-ending injuries. Let's talk about another thing, Jack, because I know that we were on yesterday's show, the big football show, the big sports show on Sunday, but I do want to, get your thoughts here. I know you can't wait to go in on the New Orleans Saints, but Derek Carr and this labrum injury, how convenient is this that this is coming out now, that no one's mentioned this labrum injury on his throwing arm nonetheless, and now of course he's retiring from the league. He doesn't want, play, period.
Look, it's Derek Carr's right to retire. He shouldn't play unless he wants to. Rehab is a very difficult thing. He would have to endure a rigorous 6 month process, to rehab, to get back to fully normal, if he could get back to fully normal altogether. And players are different. It depends how bad they want to come back. They can hang it up, and no one should really criticize him. Look at Alex Smith. He had the most gruesome of leg injuries, yet he did all that rehab to come back. And you wonder how wise it was to come back. Look, Aaron Rodgers, after the Achilles, he could have retired, but he wanted to come back. It depends on the players. Some guys, they don't want to retire no matter what. They want to keep coming back. But rehab is the most lonely of things to do. And to pay that price in rehab, he just didn't want a Derek Carr. So, let him have a happy retirement. What's his legacy going to be? I don't think it's going to be that great of a legacy. He didn't really do anything with the Saints, and with the Raiders. At most, you could say he was perhaps okay at most. I mean, I wouldn't go that far. I think he was quite average with the Raiders. They never won a playoff game with him as the quarterback. He put up some good statistics from time to time. And they did have one really good year with him as the start, I think, when they went 12-4. But all in all, he wasn't the answer. When he went to New Orleans, I didn't expect anything more than he produced, and he didn't produce anything more. And he was a free agent. I was hoping he wouldn't go to, the Jets, me being a Jet fan. And when he didn't, there was a level of relief. Derek Carr, to me, was always too good to be a backup. He was better than your backups in the league, okay? Because he wasn't a bad quarterback. He could start. You could win with him to a point. But that was the thing. You don't want a quarterback who you could win with to a point. You want someone who can carry you through the whole way to the season, hopefully to the Super Bowl. You just never seen that type of guy. And now at New Orleans, what do they have? Tyler Slouk, is that how you say his name? We don't even know how to say his name. We were arguing it on the show yesterday, everyone. I can't even pronounce his name. From Louisville, the 26-year-old from Louisville who's injured, it seems on and off.
Yeah.
And then you get Spencer Rattler, who got the play.
That's what they sold on. They sold on Spencer Rattler. They're sold on him. Let me say this.
They're not sold on him. They wouldn't have used the 40th overall
loves him.
Quarterback.
J-Train loves him. He said, and we saw Spencer Rattler, Jack. I don't know if you watched New Orleans games. Last season, we saw a couple of, debuts of Spencer Rattler. I was impressed for what New Orleans was working with. Spencer Rattler had concise passes, concise, can't get it out, concise passes. He seemed to have the control of that offense. He didn't seem to have, he seemed to be balanced, is what I'm saying. He wasn't all over the place. He was very level-headed. He seemed like his passes were calculated, everything. I mean, I don't want to say he's their franchise quarterback, but he's definitely a gap filler for where they are now. But like you said, they drafted Show. But I'm going to be honest with you, Jack. Two things. Number one, Derek Carr having a labrum tear. I think I told you, I know a few people know, I've had a labrum tear. I had surgery 5 years ago this year. To this day, if it gets cold outside, and I went through rehab for 9 months, and I don't even do professional throwing, but it was my right arm, it was the dominant arm, and some days I wish I never had the repair surgery at all, because the repair surgery, I'm supposed to go for cortisone shots every 18 months or whatever, because the pain, sometimes I could barely lift my arm to get a shirt on. And so that recovery for a regular person is rough, let alone for an athlete, and that's their throwing arm. Derek Carr played 11 seasons in the NFL. 169 games, had 41,245 passing yards. 257 of those were touchdowns. Almost half of them were interceptions with 112. He had a completed rate percentage of 65%. Passer rating was pretty good, 92.8%. Rushing yards, 956, 7 rushing touchdowns of his own. He was in the Pro Bowl 4 times, 2015 through 17 and 2022. His best days were as an Oakland Raider, just like you said. When he got to New Orleans in 2023, he had 375 completions. And then in the last season, it went down significantly, Jack. Only 189. So that was the worst season he had. Maybe he was injured. I mean, clearly he was if he's saying it now, but he has several franchise records with the Raiders, including the career passing yards and touchdowns. It's just by the time he gets to New Orleans, you're right. He's not a good, he's better. He's that in-between quarterback. He's like I like to call them kind of like the Flaccos. Like you could float somebody if they got a,
Well, Joe Flacco, they won the Super Bowl with him as quarterback of the Ravens. Flacco was a legitimate starting NFL quarterback.
Well, I'm saying now that he's pulled back in, like that's how they.
Well, now Flacco's no more than a backup. I mean, now.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr, listen, I mean, if you're going to compare him to a Tyrod Taylor, you could say, yeah, he was marginally better than the Tyrod Taylor type. Yeah, someone's got to put up numbers. I mean, quarterbacks could put up numbers that look impressive at times. And look, Derek Carr had a career he could be proud of. He was in the league double-digit years. The Raiders had, some regular season success with Derek Carr. He just wasn't the guy who I would want as my franchise quarterback. I mean, enough with Derek Carr as far as that goes. Nothing. It seems like I've been a big Derek Carr critic over the years, and I haven't meant to be one. He's not a bad quarterback by any means. Okay. I just wouldn't want him as, like I said a moment ago, as my franchise quarterback. But with Spencer Rattler's problem is he's playing in the modern day NFL. Spencer Rattler needs time to develop. He could be potentially a good quarterback, a quality starting in an NFL quarterback. But in this day and age, teams don't have the time to put into a quarterback to develop them unless it's a blue chip prospect. The Bears could be patient with a Caleb Williams because he's a number 1 overall draft choice. Spencer Rattler was a 5th-round draft choice. And when you're 5th-round draft choice, teams aren't going to have patience to develop you.
I mean, yeah, I'm looking
at Shedeur Sanders, who went in the 5th round.
Yep, that's what I was going to bring up next. I mean, Spencer Rattler's stats, I mean, he played 7 games, and he started in 6 of those games for the Saints. He completed 130 of 228 passes, so 57%, just a little half over. 1,300 yards and 4 touchdowns, though, Jack, with 5 interceptions. I mean, he's starting out kind of rough, but
he's on a bad team. The Saints are a bad team. I mean, let's be honest about it. I mean, but if they had confidence in Spencer Rattler, they would not have taken a quarterback in the 2nd round, 40th overall. They would not have done it. I could understand they took a quarterback late on in the 4th or 5th round. But when you take another quarterback in the 2nd round, it sends a message. The only time I saw something like that happen and it didn't send a message, well, a couple of times it happened with the Packers taking Jordan Love, with the Eagles when they had Aaron Rodgers, with the Eagles taking Jalen Hurts when Carson Wentz was playing bad. I want to not to change the topic completely, but we've milked out Spencer Rattler basically. Sonja, you should be ashamed of yourself with the difficulty you caused. You were going off on the Colorado Rockies the other day, how terrible they were. You wouldn't let up, and now they fired their manager. It's
oh my God!
Bud Black got fired.
21
after your outburst, the Colorado Rockies fired Bud Black. You were claiming that basically, to paraphrase, You were saying they were the biggest disgrace in all of sports, losing what, 21-0
21 to 0, 20 in a baseball game. 21 to 0 in a baseball game is huge. And yes, they fired Bud Black on Mother's Day. I feel so bad for him.
Yeah, and baseball.
He was 7-33, Jack. He was 7-33. That wasn't just that one game that resulted in him.
Terrible.
I mean, if they said it's the worst in MLB history, Jack. So I'm not the only person that sees that.
I'm not blaming Bud Black for them being so bad. They obviously have a bad roster. But managing a baseball team, I don't want to say is overrated because managers could make a difference. It depends how you handle players. But this isn't like coaching basketball. You put me on an NBA bench now. Even though I'll know the players, I'm not going to know rotations. I'm not going to know the intimate details of coaching. Even though I've coached on the high school level, I would be way over my head in the NFL, in the NBA if I had to coach. You put me on an NFL sideline and have me coach a game, I would be completely clueless where to put players, where they should line up, when changes should be made. I say completely clueless. That's compared to the NFL coaches. I just basically have a strong fan's knowledge. But you put me on the bench as a major league manager, yeah, I would rely on my bullpen coaches for certain switches and this and that. Don't get me wrong, but all you have to do is pencil in a lineup and you could win that given game. You might not even know what you're doing, but just ride in the lineup and your team could win conceivably. But managing is important to an extent how you handle players, certain moves you make. But when you have a team as bad as Colorado Rockies, I don't care who's managing you, or any moves you make, it's going to be painful.
Jack, they gave him 9 seasons to get that team together. 9 seasons, 9 years. They were long suffering with him. He was the 7th manager in the franchise history of the team. So they're very long suffering with all their managers because, they give everybody their own rope. He managed the team from 2017 until yesterday, Sunday. He had 544 wins and 690 losses, Jack, like significantly more losses than wins. But for them, this is what's crazy. He was the winningest manager in their franchise history of both games with wins and losses. He took them to their first postseason in 2017 and 18. So he started off really good. When they first brought him there, they had a lot of hopes for him. He was looking really good as the manager of that organization. Back-to-back winning.
What was the year? What was the year that they went to the World Series and they lost to the Red Sox? Was that 2017?
Yeah, they
lost in 4 games to the Red Sox. They got swept in the series.
Yeah, they went to the NIL, wild card game in 2017 and then the NL division series in 2018.
Yeah, so they had some success there early on. You can't. I hate when coaches get fired in season. I normally prefer you make the move after the season, unless you really think you can salvage the season. We were talking. Well, I know we're running out of time, so to be my last statement, we were discussing like a coaching change with the Denver Nuggets and OKC, and you were saying, it seems like the Nuggets moving on from Mike Malone is working out. But it's only working out if they beat OKC. If they beat OKC, you could feel, okay, maybe it's worked out. If they lose to OKC, you can't say the move has worked out.
Yes, what have you done for me lately? That's the mentality that a lot of us live in, and that's how it is in sports. And so we wish Bud well in his next career venture. We appreciate everybody for joining us today. Jack, always a pleasure to have you on. Join Jack and Frank Latierzo tonight with a special guest at 7 for the Glove Fist, and also shows throughout today on the network. And Jack and I will see you on Wednesday morning. Otherwise, for this show, we wish everybody a great day.